Welcome to Beer Reactions. I'm Jono, and I normally co-present Beer Reactions with my beer-loving friend Paul Sutherland, but because we're currently in a period of social distancing and shielding, it means that we can't really do the Beer Reactions thing together. Now, this is completely different to what I normally do, which is all about beer reviewing, and hence Beer Reactions. But my friend Angela Lloyd, who runs a very interesting Facebook page called Orchards of the World, put a challenge to me a couple of weeks ago and said, how would you fancy reviewing some ciders? Well, I have to admit, I'm in no way a cider expert. I mean, I've drank cider before in the past, but certainly not with any kind of expertise. So this is going to be a bit of a challenge for me, trying cider and giving it the same sort of treatment as I would normally give beer. What we normally do on Beer Reactions when we try it is we don't know what beers we're going to be trying. I bring a beer, Paul brings a beer, and we try them, and so the reactions are genuine. But this is going to be exactly the same for me because I've never tried these ciders before. Angela is sending me these. She's going to be sending me about 5 of these ciders, which is very, very kind. Thank you, Angela. So it's a genuine reaction for me to be trying these ciders. I don't know what they taste like, but I'll be using the same methodology that we do with beer, and that's to certainly look at what we call the scafter process, which is the sound it makes when it pours, which gives you some idea about the condition. We then smell it to get the aroma, and then there is the mouthfeel or the feel, and then the taste, and ultimately the aftertaste. So SCAFTA, scafter. So it's sound, condition, aroma, feel, taste, and aftertaste. So I'm going to be doing that with this as well. Now, a little bit about this here cider that Angela sent. This is the first one I say. This is called Mischief on the River, and this is by Colcombe House, Hertfordshire. Now, Angela is based in Hertfordshire, so I think these ciders are all going to be local to Hertfordshire. This one's 4.8% ABV, and this bottle, I mean, these are small batch ciders, it has to be said. This bottle is from it's the 4th batch of this that was made. It was made in 2019, and this is bottle 2,919 of 3,869 made. Colcombe House say they've been nurturing apples and orchards since 1927. There's some very interesting stuff on their website, actually. It's really well worth having a look at Colcombe House website. But the site Laithwaite says this is made with, I think it's Dabinet cider apples and Falstaff culinary apples, and it's fermented with yeasts that are normally reserved for making champagne. So it'll be very interesting to try this. Before I start tasting it, I'm just going to have a quick look at the bottle and see if there's anything else I've missed. It's 500ml bottle at Colcombe House. And it says on the back, there's a little bit of blurb on the back which is quite interesting to read. It says, Jack and Ethel grew up together and became great friends. They'd head down to the river whenever they could, and it was here that they loved to fish, catching, cooking, celebrating their successes. In their later years, they recalled to friends those times of light-hearted mischief on the river, hence where it gets its name. This is a cider that captures those years of mischief. Now, I'm not going to read the blurb because I want to see what I think of it. It gives you a little bit about the flavour and the aroma and things like that. So, let's get pouring. So let's just have a listen. One of the things I always do is listen to the sound it makes when you first pop the cork on it. There's a slight hiss there, a slight hiss. And just seeing what the carbonation's like on the bottle there, you can just see the CO2 starting to rise up. Now, on Beer Reactions, what we would normally do is pour the beer so you get a really good head on it. And the reason for doing that is to get what's called a CO2 break. And with beer, when you get a CO2 break, what that does, it releases aromas and it releases flavours that are trapped in the beer by the essential oils that are left in with the hops. But there's no hops in cider, so I'm just going to pour this as it is into a glass and just see what sort of sound it makes. Now I can hear it feels very well conditioned, this. It's a nice effervescence. You know, to all intents and purposes, it's a very similar colour to sort of a sparkling wine. Just hold that out to the camera so you can have a look at that. Looks absolutely beautiful, actually, I have to say. It's got a very floral scent to it. There's a bit of a sharpness behind that as well. It's a sort of floral, and then there's a sharpness comes through. It does actually smell a bit like grapes, like fermented grapes. It's unusual. Right, I'm going to go and have a taste, I think. As I said, I'm no cider expert. I have drank cider in the past, but that is pretty good, I have to say. It starts off with a sharpness, and then there's sort of like a vanilla sweetness there. That's the only way I can describe it. And then it's replaced by a slight bitterness as well. It's sort of like an astringence to it. And then there's sort of like an almost a pear flavour in the background. Paul, if you're watching, I really do wish you could taste this, because I know you like cider, and I know you've made cider in the past. I think it was with nettles, wasn't it? As well as apples, obviously. Well, I think you'd really like this. It's very, very good. I think from a personal taste, it might be just a little bit sweet for me. I like things to be a little bit more bitter than that. But that certainly doesn't distract from how nice this cider is. It's a really good cider. I've not really got anything to compare it to at the moment, which is a bit unusual, because normally there's another beer to compare it to. Yeah, there's a fruitiness that starts off there. It is there's definitely sort of a pear flavour to it. It's almost perfumey. And that's the best way I can describe it. Maybe that's that floral, that floral aroma and flavour that comes through there. But there is a bit of vanilla sweetness as well. But it's got a lovely texture, I have to say. Because I always find, normally when you drink cider, I find them a bit too fizzy. Almost like fizzy pop. But this is really well conditioned, and it's got a really nice mouthfeel. It's not too effervescent, but there's definitely a richness to it. It's got a fruity aftertaste that lingers quite a bit, and then you're left with this sort of bitter astringence with it. It's lovely. So thank you for sending this, Angela. That really is a nice cider, and I'm definitely looking forward to trying some of the others that you plan to send me, if you still want to do that. So thanks again. I think if I were going to score this again without any sort of baseline to score it against, as a first sort of small batch cider that I've tried like this, I think I'm going to give that 8 out of 10. That's a really good cider. It almost makes me want to go to cider rather than beer, but I am a beer drinker and I really enjoy beer because I brew beer. But I think 8 out of 10. That's a really good cider. Please subscribe to the Beer Reactions YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and hopefully see you again soon. Cheers!